Captain Mara Thorne stood on the bridge of the human starship Vanguard, staring at the vast expanse of space displayed on the view screen. The ship's sensors had picked up a faint distress signal originating from an uncharted sector. The signal was garbled and weak, but the urgency in it was unmistakable. Mara's curiosity and sense of duty compelled her to investigate, despite the potential dangers. "Helm, set a course for the signal's origin," Mara ordered, her voice steady and authoritative. "Aye, Captain," replied Lieutenant Derek, the ship's pilot. The Vanguard smoothly altered its trajectory, heading toward the unknown. As they approached the source of the signal, the ship's sensors revealed a desolate planet shrouded in darkness. There were no signs of life or civilization, only a crumbling facility that appeared ancient and abandoned. "Scan the facility," Mara commanded. "Scans indicate a significant amount of radiation and decaying organic matter," reported Science Officer Chen. "It's a miracle the signal got through at all." "Prepare an away team," Mara said. "We need to find out what's going on down there." The away team, consisting of Mara, Lieutenant Derek, Science Officer Chen, and 2 security officers, descended to the planet's surface. The facility loomed before them, a monolithic structure of rusted metal and decaying stone. Inside, the air was thick with the stench of decay, and the walls were lined with strange alien symbols. As they ventured deeper, they discovered a series of cells, each containing evidence of horrific experiments. The remains of various alien species lay scattered, their bodies mutilated and deformed. The sight filled Mara with a mix of horror and anger. In the farthest cell, they found a young alien girl, her body frail and covered in scars. She was unconscious, strapped to a table surrounded by ominous-looking equipment. "We need to get her out of here," Mara said, her voice filled with urgency. Science Officer Chen quickly assessed the alien girl's condition. "She's alive, but barely. We need to move fast." As they worked to free her, the facility's automated defenses activated, and Kazar drones began to emerge from hidden compartments. "Defensive positions!" Mara shouted. The team fought their way through the drones, narrowly escaping the facility with the alien girl in tow. Back on the Vanguard, they placed her in the ship's medical bay, where Dr. Elise started to stabilize her condition. "Who is she?" Lieutenant Derek asked, looking at the girl with a mix of curiosity and concern. "We'll find out," Mara replied, her eyes fixed on the alien girl. "But whatever she's been through, we're her only hope now." The Vanguard quickly departed from the desolate planet, but their troubles were far from over. As they entered open space, the ship's sensors picked up a Kazar warship on an intercept course. "Captain, we're being pursued," Lieutenant Derek reported. "Raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers," Mara ordered. The Kazar warship, sleek and menacing, loomed closer, its weapons charging. A tense standoff ensued as both ships maneuvered through the asteroid field that surrounded the planet. "Open a channel to the Kazar ship," Mara commanded. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a Kazar commander. His reptilian features and cold eyes conveyed a sense of superiority. "Return the specimen, and you will be spared," the Kazar commander hissed. "Over my dead body," Mara shot back. The Kazar warship opened fire, and the Vanguard engaged in a desperate battle. Mara's quick thinking and Lieutenant Derek's expert piloting allowed them to evade the worst of the enemy fire. Meanwhile, Laura, the alien girl, began to regain consciousness in the medical bay. "Captain, she's waking up," Dr. Elise reported. Mara rushed to the medical bay where Laura's eyes fluttered open. She looked around, fear evident in her gaze. "You're safe now," Mara said gently. "We won't let them take you back." Laura's voice was weak but determined. "The Kazar! They won't stop. You have to destroy them." "That's the plan," Mara replied, her resolve hardening. With Laura's knowledge of Kazar tactics and vulnerabilities, the Vanguard managed to outmaneuver the enemy ship, causing it to retreat. The battle left the Vanguard battered but victorious. "Set course for Coalition space," Mara ordered. "We need allies if we're going to take down the Kazar." As the Vanguard made its way to safety, Mara knew that their journey was just beginning. The Kazar would stop at nothing to reclaim Laura, and the crew of the Vanguard would have to be ready for whatever came next. The Vanguard sped through the void towards Coalition space, a region where various independent planets had united for mutual defense and cooperation. Captain Mara Thorne knew that they needed allies to stand a chance against the Kazar, and the Coalition was their best hope. "Entering Coalition space," Lieutenant Derrick announced, "sending identification codes." "Let's hope they're in a welcoming mood," Mara said, standing at the helm with an air of determination. A moment later, the view screen lit up with the image of a Coalition cruiser. Its captain, a tall insectoid being with multifaceted eyes and an elegant exoskeleton, appeared. "I am Captain Rollin of the Coalition cruiser Bright Star," the insectoid said. "State your purpose." "We seek refuge and assistance," Mara replied. "We have rescued an individual from Kazar captivity, and they are pursuing us." Raylan's antennae twitched. "Bring your ship to our docking bay. We will discuss this further in person." Docking procedures completed, Mara and her senior officers met Captain Raylan and his delegation in a grand crystalline chamber aboard the Bright Star. They were also introduced to Kira, a fierce warrior from the feline-like Qatar species, who eyed them warily. Laura, though still recovering, insisted on attending. Her presence and testimony about the Kazar's atrocities had a profound impact. She recounted her experiences in a calm but intense manner, describing the experiments and the Kazar's ambitions. "The Kazar seek to dominate through genetic manipulation and terror," Laura explained. "They won't stop with me. They have plans for the entire galaxy." The Coalition representatives were initially hesitant. They had their own conflicts and challenges, and involving themselves in a war with the Kazar was a daunting prospect. "I understand your reluctance," Mara said. "But if we don't stand together now, the Kazar will pick us off one by one." Rollin and Kira exchanged glances. The Coalition's deliberations were swift, and ultimately, they agreed to support the Vanguard. They provided resources for repairs, reinforcements, and valuable intelligence on the Kazar. "We will stand with you," Rollin declared. "Together, we will resist the Kazar's tyranny." As the Vanguard underwent repairs in Coalition space, Laura continued to regain her strength and memories. Each passing day brought more clarity about her past and the Kazar's objectives. Captain Mara Thorne spent long hours in the ship's library, researching everything she could about the Kazar and their history. She was determined to find a way to strike at the heart of their operations. One evening, while poring over old mission logs, Mara stumbled upon a familiar name. It was a mission she had been part of years ago, one that had ended in disaster. The mission involved an encounter with the Kazar, and it was now clear that it had been part of their broader scheme. Mara's thoughts drifted to her former commander, Captain Jonas Riker. He had been a mentor and a father figure to her. During that ill-fated mission, he had sacrificed himself to ensure the crew's escape. The Kazar had been experimenting with advanced weaponry, and Riker's actions had prevented a potential catastrophe. "We have unfinished business," Mara muttered, her resolve hardening. Meanwhile, Laura's memories painted a clearer picture of the Kazar's experiments. They were not just interested in genetic enhancements. They sought to create a superweapon, a being of immense power derived from Laura's unique biology. "They believe I am the key to unlocking a new era of domination," Laura told Mara during one of their many discussions. "But they don't understand the full extent of what they're dealing with." Mara nodded. "Then we need to make sure they never get the chance." With their ship repaired and bolstered by Coalition forces, the Vanguard set out on a new mission, to raid a Kazar research outpost hidden within a dense nebula. The intel provided by Laura and the Coalition indicated that this outpost was a critical hub for the Kazar's genetic experiments. The plan was straightforward but risky. The nebula's volatile conditions would provide cover, but it also meant they would be flying blind for much of the mission. Mara and her team were prepared for the challenge. "Approaching the nebula," Lieutenant Derrick reported. The view screen showed the swirling gases and charged particles of the nebula, a chaotic and mesmerizing sight. "All hands, brace for turbulence," Mara announced over the ship's intercom. "We're going in." As the Vanguard entered the nebula, the ship's sensors struggled to penetrate the thick clouds. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Multiple contacts," Science Officer Chen shouted. "It's an ambush." Kazar warships emerged from the nebula's swirling mists, their weapons already firing. The Vanguard and its escorts were caught off guard, taking heavy fire. "Evasive maneuvers!" Mara commanded. "Return fire!" The space battle that ensued was intense and chaotic. The Vanguard weaved through the nebula, using the environment to its advantage. Laura, watching the battle unfold, realized that the Kazar had anticipated their move. They had been waiting for this moment. "We have to disable their flagship," Laura said, urgency in her voice. "It's the command center for the entire operation." Mara nodded, already formulating a plan. "Lieutenant Derek, get us close to that flagship. We're going to board it." Under heavy fire, the Vanguard closed the distance to the Kazar flagship. Mara led a boarding party, including Laura, Kira, and a squad of elite coalition soldiers. They breached the flagship's hull and fought their way through its corridors, facing fierce resistance from Kazar warriors. As they reached the command center, they confronted the Kazar commander. A fierce battle ensued, with Mara and her team fighting valiantly. Laura used her knowledge of the ship's systems to disable its defenses, turning the tide in their favor. With the flagship disabled, the remaining Kazar ships retreated. The raid had been costly, but it was a significant victory. As the Vanguard and its allies regrouped, Mara knew that they had struck a critical blow against the Kazar. But the war was far from over, and the stakes were higher than ever. After narrowly escaping the ambush at the Kazar research outpost, the Vanguard and its allies regrouped to assess their next move. The cost had been high, and the coalition forces were licking their wounds. Captain Mara Thorne stood in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays and her senior officers. "We need to strike back," Mara said, her voice filled with determination. "We can't let the Kazar gain the upper hand." Laura, now a crucial part of their strategy, nodded. "The Kazar are relentless. They won't stop until they've recaptured me or destroyed us all." "We've gathered valuable intel from the flagship," Science Officer Chen added. "There are other Kazar outposts, but they are heavily guarded." "Then we'll have to be smarter," Mara replied. "We'll hit them where they least expect it." Licking their wounds, the crew of the Vanguard discovered a seemingly abandoned planet, rich in resources, perfect for repairing their ship and regaining their strength. The planet, covered in lush forests and ancient ruins, had an eerie silence that hinted at a long-forgotten civilization. "This place is incredible," Lieutenant Derek remarked as the crew began exploring the surface. "It's like stepping into a history book." As they ventured deeper into the ruins, Laura felt a strange connection to the place. "These symbols, they resemble those of my ancestors." Captain Mara Thorne looked around, intrigued. "Do you think your people were here?" "It's possible," Laura said thoughtfully. "The Kazar have been hunting my kind for eons. This might have been one of their strongholds." Their exploration led them to a central temple, where they found ancient artifacts and writings. Laura deciphered the symbols, revealing more about her species' history and their long-standing conflict with the Kazar. "This temple was a sanctuary," Laura explained, "a place of refuge from the Kazar's tyranny." The discovery strengthened their resolve. Knowing that others had fought and resisted, the Kazar gave them hope. The planet also offered valuable resources, allowing them to repair the Vanguard and prepare for their next mission. Just as the crew of the Vanguard began to regain their footing, a shocking revelation threatened to unravel their fragile alliance. Rollin, the insectoid diplomat, uncovered a spy within the coalition, feeding information to the Kazar. The traitor's identity was a devastating blow. It was someone they had trusted implicitly. Mara gathered her senior staff in the briefing room. "We have a mole in our midst," she announced gravely. "Someone who has been compromising our operations and putting all our lives at risk." The room fell silent as suspicion and tension filled the air. Rollin presented the evidence, and all eyes turned to the traitor. Lieutenant Harris, one of the Coalition's trusted officers. "Why Harris?" Mara demanded, her voice a mix of anger and betrayal. Harris looked defeated but defiant. "The Kazar promised me power, a position of influence in the New Order. I didn't think we could win this war." "Your actions have cost us dearly," Rollin said, his tone cold. "You will answer for your betrayal." As Harris was taken away, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Vanguard was under attack by a Kazar fleet, their position compromised by Harris's treachery. "All hands to battle stations," Mara ordered. "We need to hold them off until we can regroup." The Kazar assault was fierce and unrelenting. The coalition's headquarters came under heavy fire, and chaos reigned. Amidst the turmoil, Mara's leadership shone. She coordinated the defense, rallying the troops and directing counterattacks with precision. Laura, drawing on her newfound strength and knowledge, took an active role in the defense. She used her abilities to disrupt the Kazar's communications and sabotage their systems. Despite the overwhelming odds, the Vanguard and its allies managed to repel the Kazar forces. The battle left them battered but not broken, and the traitors' capture had at least provided clarity and resolve. As the dust settled, Mara addressed her crew and the coalition forces. "We've been dealt a harsh blow, but we are not defeated. The Kazar think they can break us with fear and deception. They are wrong. We will rise stronger, and we will take the fight to them." Rollin and Kira stood beside her, their expressions resolute. "Together, we will bring the Kazar to justice," Rollin declared. With renewed determination, the Vanguard and its allies prepared for the next phase of their battle against the Kazar. The journey ahead would be perilous, but united in purpose, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With their alliance strengthened and their resolve hardened, the Vanguard and its coalition allies set out to uncover the Kazar's ultimate plan. Intelligence gathered from the captured Kazar flagship hinted at a central laboratory deep within Kazar territory, where their most sinister experiments were conducted. Captain Mara Thorne stood in the war room, examining the holographic map of the Kazar's territory. "This laboratory is our target," she said. "If we can destroy it, we can cripple their entire operation." Laura, now a vital member of the strategy team, pointed to the lab's location. "This facility is heavily guarded. It's not just a research center, it's a fortress." Raylan, the insectoid diplomat, nodded. "We will need to infiltrate it from within. A full frontal assault would be suicide." "Agreed," Mara said. "We'll use a small strike team to get inside and disable their defenses. Once we're in, we'll destroy the lab and all its data." Kira, the fierce Qatar warrior, stepped forward. "I volunteer for the strike team. The Kazar will not know what hit them." Mara smiled. "Let's make sure they don't." The infiltration mission was fraught with danger from the outset. Mara, Laura, Kira, and a squad of elite coalition soldiers boarded a stealth ship, slipping past Kazar patrols and entering their territory undetected. The journey to the Kazar laboratory was tense, every moment fraught with the possibility of discovery. As they approached the lab, the team prepared for the final phase of the mission. Mara's heart pounded as she addressed her team. "This is it. We go in, disable their defenses, and get out. Stay sharp and watch each other's backs." The team breached the lab's outer perimeter, using Laura's knowledge to bypass security systems. Inside, they faced fierce resistance from Kazar warriors. The corridors were a maze of high-tech labs and containment cells, filled with the nightmarish results of the Kazar's experiments. "These monsters!" Kira growled, slashing through a Kazar soldier. "They will pay for what they've done." As they fought their way to the central control room, Rollin's sacrifice allowed them to press on. He stayed behind to hold off a Kazar squad, buying the team precious time. "Go, I'll cover you," he shouted, firing his weapon with precision. Mara hesitated, but Laura pulled her forward. "We have to keep moving." They reached the control room, where they confronted the Kazar commander overseeing the experiments. A brutal battle ensued, with Mara and her team fighting against overwhelming odds. Laura, using her unique abilities, disabled the lab's main systems, causing chaos among the Kazar ranks. The lab began to collapse as Mara planted charges on the central reactor. "We have to go now!" she shouted. As they made their escape, the lab exploded in a massive fireball, destroying the Kazar's research and dealing a crippling blow to their plans. The destruction of the Kazar laboratory sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks. The Vanguard and its allies regrouped, preparing for the inevitable retaliation. The Kazar, furious and desperate, launched a massive counteroffensive aimed at the heart of coalition space. "We've got incoming Kazar fleets on all fronts," Lieutenant Darek reported. They're throwing everything they have at us. Mara stood tall, her gaze steely. This is their last stand. We hold the line here, and we break them. The coalition forces, bolstered by their recent victories, and the unity forged in battle, prepared for the final confrontation. The skies above coalition headquarters filled with warships as the Kazar descended upon them. The battle that followed was epic in scale and ferocity. The Vanguard and its allies fought valiantly, matching the Kazar blow for blow. Mara coordinated the defense with precision, her tactical genius shining as she directed the fleet. Laura, now fully embracing her role, used her abilities to disrupt the Kazar's command structure, turning their own strategies against them. Kira led ground forces in a fierce defense of the headquarters, her combat skills unmatched. In the midst of the chaos, Mara's voice cut through the comms. This is our moment. All ships, focus fire on their flagship. We take it down, and we end this war. The coalition fleet converged on the Kazar flagship, their combined firepower overwhelming its defenses. The flagship exploded in a brilliant burst of light, signaling the turning point of the battle. With their command ship destroyed, the Kazar forces began to falter. The coalition pressed their advantage, driving the enemy back and securing a hard-fought victory. As the dust settled, Mara stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, looking out at the remnants of the battle. "We've done it," she said softly. "We've won." Laura, standing beside her, smiled. "Thanks to you, Captain, and thanks to all of us working together." The crew of the Vanguard and their allies celebrated their victory, knowing that while the war had been long and brutal, they had triumphed through unity, courage, and determination. The Kazar threat was diminished, and a new era of peace and cooperation dawned in the galaxy. The aftermath of the final battle against the Kazar was a mixture of relief and sorrow. The coalition forces had achieved a hard-won victory, but the cost had been high. Captain Mara Thorne stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, surveying the scene of their triumph. The wreckage of Kazar ships drifted in the void, a stark reminder of the price of freedom. The coalition leaders convened a meeting aboard the Vanguard to discuss the future. Representatives from the various species, including Raylan's second-in-command, who had taken up his mantle, and Kira, now a respected figure among her people, gathered to chart a new course for their alliance. Mara addressed the assembly. "We have fought and bled together. We have seen the worst of what the galaxy can throw at us, and we have prevailed. But our work is not done. We must ensure that the Kazar, or any threat like them, can never rise again." Laura, standing beside Mara, added, "We need to rebuild and heal. The Kazar have left scars on many worlds, including my own. We must reach out to those who have suffered and offer them our support." The assembly agreed. Plans were made to send aid to the planets affected by the Kazar's tyranny and to strengthen the bonds between the coalition members. The spirit of cooperation that had led them to victory would now guide them in peace. Back on the Vanguard, Mara reflected on their journey. The ship had been more than a vessel of war. It had become a symbol of hope and resilience. As the crew worked to repair the damages, they also prepared for a new mission, to explore and aid. "We've been through hell," Lieutenant Darrick said, standing with Mara on the observation deck. "But we've come out stronger." Mara nodded. "We have. And now we have a chance to make a real difference. The Kazar have scattered, but their influence remains. We need to help those who are still suffering." Laura approached, her expression determined. "I want to join you, Mara. My place is with the Vanguard now. Together, we can ensure that the Kazar's darkness is replaced with light." Mara smiled. "We'd be honored to have you, Laura. Your strength and knowledge are invaluable." The Vanguard set out on its new mission, visiting planets ravaged by the Kazar. They provided medical aid, rebuilt infrastructure, and offered hope to those who had lost everything. Each world they visited was a step towards healing the galaxy's wounds. Kira led a team to help train local militias, ensuring that each planet could defend itself against future threats. Raylan's successor worked tirelessly to forge new diplomatic ties, expanding the coalition and bringing more species into the fold. Laura's presence aboard the Vanguard became a beacon of hope. She shared her story with those they encountered, inspiring them to stand up against oppression. Her resilience became a symbol of what could be achieved through unity and courage. As the Vanguard continued its mission, Mara felt a sense of fulfillment. They had faced an overwhelming enemy and emerged victorious, not just through strength, but through solidarity and compassion. The galaxy was still fraught with dangers, but they were ready to face them together. One evening, as the Vanguard orbited a newly liberated world, Mara and Laura stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. "What's next for us, Captain?" Laura asked. "Whatever the galaxy throws at us," Mara replied with a smile. "We've proven that we can handle anything, as long as we stand together." The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of possibilities. The journey of the Vanguard and its crew was far from over. They were explorers, defenders, and healers, united by a common purpose. As they embarked on new adventures, they knew that the spirit of freedom and hope would guide them, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The story of the Vanguard and its crew is a testament to the power of unity, resilience, and the enduring human spirit. Their legacy would inspire generations to come, a shining example of what can be achieved when diverse beings come together for a common cause.